I'm delighted to be here. I'm going to talk to you, I think, about one thing, and this is, it's always day one. You know, Forrest Gump got it right. Life is a box of chocolates. You never know when they're going to explode. And I don't know about you, but on any given day, I'm confronted with something that I never would have expected to happen. How many of you have had one of those days just in the last couple days? Right, to the upside and to the downside, by the way. And one of the contributions that I will make to you during the course of the next hour or so is to give you this thing called the power of perspective. And perspective is defined as a view from a place where you are not. So there are many people to whom I'm talking to right now that have spent the last 18 months struggling, almost flatlining, desperately endeavoring to rebuild or renew or resuscitate a market that has changed to the downside. Your challenges are the exact opposite of that. And I would call them uptown challenges. How do you keep up with this just fever pitch of a market that you're in? So when I hear some of the highly emotional responses that the people in this room have expressed during the course of this morning, I always want you to keep in mind the fact that you are in pursuit of, and this is the key theme of my talk to you today, you are in pursuit of breakthroughs as opposed to trying to manage a breakdown. And so we need to represent what that next possibility could be in every single conversation. And the spirit of everything that I'm sharing with you during the course of my short time with you this morning is summed up in 4 Japanese words. Now, I don't speak Japanese, but I do speak this phrase, ichigo ichie. So just say that with me, ichigo ichie. Now, I believe in this philosophy so deeply that I've had it tattooed somewhere on my person. Now, I know that might be more information than you need, but I will tell you that I live this. So ichigo ichie means one life, one meeting. And what that really means is that every conversation only happens one time. So this conversation never, ever happens again. And I know what it took to bring this group of people together. But that's what it takes for you to make every conversation a breakthrough conversation. Let me see by show of hands. How many of you have ever spoken to someone who didn't seem to be fully invested in the conversation? Right. What happens to you when you're talking to someone who's not invested in that conversation, who doesn't appear to be paying attention? What happens to your attention? What happens to your interest? Most importantly, what happens to your sense of self-efficacy? That's a psychological term that says belief in one's own power to make an impact. And I'm just looking at the faces around me here, and maybe it's a blessing that we're talking in the semi-darkness and that we've got social distancing, so I don't have to see the expression on your face. Right? And by that I mean, sometimes the people in this room can put an expression on their faces or look at someone in such a way that turns that other person into stone. How many of you have ever put on your poker face? Or the face that says, I'm never going to let you see what I'm thinking. Right. So part of ichigo ichie is to make sure that in that conversation, you give that other person exactly what they need in that moment. And that requires agility from your standpoint. It requires empathy, requires compassion. But most importantly, it requires whatever that person needs in that moment to create a breakthrough conversation. So this is a photograph that was taken 20 years ago. And now I don't spend a lot of time thinking about the past. And I know that there are many familiar faces in this audience that I might have shown the slide to, but I will look at this slide literally on a daily basis. Because 20 years ago, I got the pleasure and the privilege of meeting Nelson Mandela. I had 10 minutes with him. It was my payment for doing a workshop with his foundation. And I asked him a simple question. What was it like suffering for all those years in prison? And how did he emerge being even more committed to change and reconciliation than he was when he was incarcerated? And he looked at me and he said, Michael, I didn't suffer. I prepared to live my life every day. So when I was released, I would transform my nation into the kind of nation I dreamt of it becoming. And I think about that a lot. because every day is your life in miniature. So can I just see by show of hands, how many of you have had a great day so far? Fantastic. This is your life. And have you noticed that the way you feel right now is based on this experience that you're having right now? Not the one that you had, not the one you're going to have, this experience you're having right now. So every day, with every person, in every situation, is your opportunity to create your breakthrough. And I know if you're in this room, some of your most gratifying moments is when someone looks at you and says to you, thank you for that. You've no idea how much that comment means to me or how much this conversation means to me. Now, you might be thinking, what does WWMD mean? It simply means, what would Mandela do? So when you're at your best, you are unleashing your inner Mandela. When you're at your worst, you're just being at your worst. In fact, let me ask you this. Have you ever been in a meeting where you were so good, you amazed yourself? Ever been in one of those meetings, right, where the right words are coming out in the right way and it's got the right impact and people around you are going, wow, I want more of this person. And then I know, and I don't even have to ask this question, you've also been in conversations where you look back in regret because you mailed it in. You were kind of sort of quasi there. And just know this, one conversation with you because of your status that doesn't go well means the other person indicts themselves for not having risen to your expectations. Well, let me phrase this a different way. One sentence from you can be a life sentence for somebody else. I cannot tell you how many people I talk to who are acting in a certain way, and when I ask them why are they acting like that, they tell me of a previous boss they had that gave them this advice, and now they've been living on this advice, and they wonder why they've been heading south. Let me give you an example. So there's a senior woman leader that I'm talking to, and I'm coaching her on how to communicate virtually. And I notice when she speaks, she doesn't move her arms. She just talks into the camera. So I said to her, Liz, I'm just curious, why don't you use your hands? Because you're a very passionate, very emotive person, and yet you're not using 80% of the resources available to you, i.e. your body language. She said, Mike, I had a boss who told me that I shouldn't use my hands if I want to be taken seriously. And I just said to her, well, let's just say that you may have missed 15 years of impacting people at the deepest level. And it was a very emotional moment for both of us. Now, I'm happy to tell you that conversation was 6 months ago, and now she's been transformed. She doesn't have to sit on her hands. She's actually enjoying herself when she's talking into a camera. So I just want you to know that your words carry incredible weight and impact. So you want to be cognizant of unleashing your inner Mandela while you're talking to them. Now, this next slide is the most important slide of my whole presentation. If all you do is take this next slide away, then my work here will be done. So I'm looking out over the audience, and I thought it was quite appropriate that in the previous session, people acknowledged that your biggest competitor is retirement. And I'm looking at some folks in this room who might be Gen Z. Maybe there's one person here, I don't know. Then there's some Gen Yers, quite a few Gen Xers, quite a few boomers, and one or two geezers. Not me, I'm a millennial. I just have 6 decades of experience being a millennial. But every day I wake up, I look at myself in the mirror and I go, who's that guy? Because internally, my age is 33. And I won't tell you what my real age is because the only age that matters is my internal age. I follow the question from the great baseball player Satchel Paige, who said, how old would you be if you didn't know how old you were? 33, man. I've been 33 longer than my wife has been 33. Anyway, so here are the 6 stages of new. And I just want you to evaluate where you are right now. The first is you begin as a beginner. You're fresh, shiny, and hot. You're straight out of the showroom. Everything is fabulous. Everything is bright and shiny and full of possibilities. Then because you're a beginner, you actually generate something called beginner's luck. And you know why it's called beginner's luck? Because you come at the world with energy, enthusiasm, naive expectation of the best possible outcome. And guess what? It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Have you noticed that the way you show up tends to influence greatly the way things turn out? So you have one breakthrough after another, but then inevitably, no matter how much energy and magic you are generating, you hit the wall. The wall is an acute event. It's called a pandemic, or it's called the difficult person, or it's called the business crisis, or it's called a personal challenge. It's an acute event that stops you in your track. But as someone once said to me, walls are there to keep uncommitted people out. So I compliment all of you, not just for being at this event, but for being in this session. I can tell that this is an accomplished group of folks because the vast majority of you are here. I mean, how many conferences have you been to where the vast majority of people disappear when there's 2 more sessions to go? I go, no, don't leave now. Now, this is called the finish line. And I see so many folks giving up just before they consummate all their activities. So congratulations for being here, by the way, because what we're doing right now is consolidating. We are reflecting, we are resetting so that you can go back into your respective marketplaces and re-engage with gusto. Then we get to the 5th stage, which is the purple patch. It's where you feel like you're in mastery. It's where you are manifesting your inner genius. You are generating the acclaim. And the biggest recruitment tool every one of you in this room has is your reputation. You are not a hunter anymore. You don't have to go out hunting, and you're not a farmer. You don't have to just build on current relationships. You've become a magnet. People want to hang with you because you are a winner. You know, the word winning means achieving the best results, achieving the winning score, but winning also means appealing, attractive. Let me just tell you something. People who are winning are winning. We want to hang with those people. In fact, winning is so important, it forgives you for a lot of other sins. In addition to the work that I do on the stage here, I'm also a Leadership Circle Profile 360 coach. I do a lot of 360s with very senior leaders. And I just did a session, or I just did an evaluation of a leader based out in Arizona. And this is a guy who got 0 for his ability to build relationships. He's the ultimate SOB. He's unfiltered. And what saves him is he's an equal opportunity SOB. Whoever's in front of him, that's how he talks to them. So no one feels like they're being victimized because this is who this guy is. But he's such an incredible visionary. He's got such strategic focus. He's got such an ability to direct people to do the things that generate the highest results that people not only forgive him for that, he's actually become famous for that. So before people go into a meeting with him, they go, look, just so you know, this is how he's going to be. Take it. It'll make you money. Right? And there's some folks in this room who go, yeah, that's me. Now, inevitably, the 6th stage, the dangerous phase, is the plateau, where you start to become jaded. You start to become fatigued. You start to just show up and mail in the performance, where you go, I'm done, but I haven't yet quit. I'm just showing up on any given day. And by the way, there's so much out there that I think I can just put myself in automatic pilot. And no one gets inspired by someone who's on automatic pilot. So the challenge that faces you right now is, how do you keep on coming back to being a beginner despite your decades in the field, despite the extraordinary success that you've achieved, despite the volume that's coming at you on any given day? And the difference between a plateau and the wall is an acute moment where you come face to face with that person inside of you. As someone once said to me, sometimes you'll find yourself in a difficult place, and sometimes in a difficult place, you'll find yourself. But the plateau is where you just feel like you're worn away from within. And that's where you need to rediscover the beginner within you. Now, can I just see by show of hands, how many of you in this room have never heard me speak before? Can I see by show of hands? Okay. Well, the vast majority of you. Not that many people know how well known I am. Right? No, but it's great because sometimes I talk to a lot of folks and I see a lot of friendly faces in the audience here. But the truth is You're seeing me for the first time, many of you. And if I don't do good, you won't see me again. So I'm talking to you as though this is the very first talk I'm giving, because it is to you. And you want to be talking to everyone around you like that. You know, because when you're a motivational speaker, you're expected to be motivational. The other day I was at the airport and I had a bad day. Ever had one of those days when it takes all you have just to keep up with the losers? Ever had a day like that? I had that day. So I'm going through security, and it's, I'm not used to traveling, bad day. And someone recognizes me through my mask. They go, "Excuse me." I said, "What?" Wasn't in the mood for another heart-to-heart. She says, "Aren't you Mike Lipkin?" I said, "Yes." She says, "Well, shouldn't you be smiling?" Because she could see my whole body posture, even through my mask, was not a happy body posture. And that was a wake-up call for me. So just know that in this age of the omnipresent video camera, every action you take is being evaluated, interpreted, and acted upon. So today's about achieving that breakthrough. So let's talk about breakthrough, because have you noticed we are into a whole new vocabulary? There are certain words that have manifested themselves in the last 18 months to the tune of 9,000 new words in the English language will be added in 2021. Now, to give you some idea, the average English speaker only has an operational vocabulary of 20,000 words. So almost 50% of our vocabulary has been generated in the last year. I mean, words like covidiot. You know what a covidiot is? Someone who's an idiot as it relates to COVID. Kind of person who gets up close and personal without a mask, totally oblivious to you trying to back off. Or how about Blur's Day? You know what Blur's Day is? Every day that blurs into the next day. How about the R number? You know, we never spoke about the R number before. That's the rate at which the pandemic is procreating. And as long as it's lower than 1, it means it's decreasing and we're moving towards herd immunity. How about allyship? That is showing support for those marginalized groups of which you are not a member, but you can support strongly. And all of us need to be engaged in that to some degree or another. I don't know about you, but previously, I never even used the word quarantine, and I didn't know what a social distance was, right? And by the way, there's another word that's just come on, and that's now quarantini. That's the alcoholic beverage you engage in by yourself in front of a webcam. So you've got to be able to talk this talk. When you start speaking, people have got to say to themselves, I want to hang with this person because they're at the bleeding edge of things as they're occurring. By the same token, we listen to certain folks, and just by the language that they use, how they use it, the tone in which they deliver it, they brand themselves as yesterday's person. And we all know what got us here is not going to get us through the next 12 to 15 months. There was a wonderful comment made earlier on by someone on that side of the room in terms of social media, letting people know what you are doing and how you are doing it. Because now, more than ever, it is about communication in all its forms. So I study words. I do not use a word without knowing what that word means. Words are my inventory. Words is what I buy and sell. And my favorite book is the Oxford Dictionary. I'm up to W. Thank you. One person in the back appreciates my humor. By the way, if you want to endear yourself to folks, don't worry about whether you are funny. You'll get kudos for trying to be funny. It means you're not taking yourself too seriously. So I often just show how much I'm enjoying myself, and I apologize in advance for humor that doesn't land. But I don't take myself too seriously because life is too serious to be taken seriously. Seriously. So what is a breakthrough? It's an action that moves you through an obstacle. And I want you to ask yourself, to what extent are you moving people through obstacles? It's a sudden insight that enables someone to achieve a remarkable result. You know, my best moments, just like yours, is when I'm having a conversation, someone says something to me, I didn't understand it before, but as they say it, I go, now I get it. Now here's the most important one. It's a personal victory over doubt that liberates someone from their fear. Let me tell you what COVID has done. it has magnified the preconditions that we all brought into the scenario. They could be physical, mental, emotional, social, financial, but COVID has magnified all the issues that are our kryptonite or Achilles heels. So the biggest contribution you can make to folks is to help them celebrate the hero within, not yield to their inner coward. And as I tell folks, this is about pushing your inner coward past its breaking point. We'll all feel a sense of fear, and here's the thing, with your level of success, there's a whole nother fear that comes into play. Can you break through to the next level? Do you have what it takes to be iconic or legendary in your field? Because I know if you're in this room, good enough ain't good enough. Which takes us to the final point here. And this is where we all need to be treating each person, each conversation as a career in and of itself. What does that other person need most in that moment? And we all need different things in different moments on any given day. So I'm always asking myself, what does success look like to this person? And in fact, I ask them at the beginning of every conversation, what does success look like to you at the end of our conversation together? And then I keep coming back to that point. Now, because of the huge things that have happened in our lives during the course of the last 18 months, we tend to discount the small things. But there's a wonderful thought leader called Beth Comstock, ex-Chief Marketing Officer of GE. She's now on the board of Nike. She's an author, just a great thought leader. I follow her. And she said something extraordinary that I keep with me at all times. She says, look for the small victories and build on them. We ask ourselves, and she's talking about Nike and GE and the other companies she works with, if it works for one customer, how do we scale it? We found there's huge profitability, and it goes on to say there's huge profitability in small wins. So my question to you is, how are you celebrating the small wins of the people around you? How are you getting them to increase their confidence in themselves with each small win? Because the truth is that your brain doesn't understand small versus big. Your brain just understands I'm winning or I'm not winning. So as a result of talking to you, how do people feel about themselves after that conversation? Right? So, what do your words say about you? If I was listening to you, what brand would I take away? You know, I heard a lot of folks saying, yes, we represent ReMax as the brand. Steve was saying he also represents Hallmark as the brand. But you represent yourself as the brand. So here's my question. Would you follow you? You know, when we talk about self-reflection, there's a new meaning to the word self-reflection. You know what it is? Watching yourself on Zoom. How many of you enjoy watching yourself on Zoom? Come on, be truthful. I love it because I'm a high-performing narcissist. Right? In fact, someone the other day asked me, how come I'm always so motivated? I said, because I attend all my own seminars. Right? But I'll tell you, the reason why I'm watching myself on Zoom, other than to make sure that I haven't got spinach in my teeth, is I'm asking myself, would I enjoy this conversation? Would I be inspired? Would I be motivated? Because what are we ultimately in competition for? Every person in this room is in competition for the right people's time. If I get your time, I can get your attention. If I get your attention, I can get your following. If I get your following, I can get your commitment. If I get your commitment, I can get your relationship. And then you want to stay in touch with that person over time. I will tell you that I want to give a shout out to someone in this room who's the reason why I'm here. So Arletta Miz, I think you're in the back. Arletta, if you can just stand up for a second. I'm not going to ask you to say anything, just applaud. Perfect. So there was some spontaneous applause there, Arletta. Clearly folks know you and what you do, but I have done a lot of work with Arletta over the years. Arletta was working for a large client of mine. She moved to ReMax. She works with Chris and a lot of the other team. And when the folks were looking for a great closing speaker, Arletta said, there's this guy, Mike Lipkin, who's outstanding. And then I had some supporters here. Where's Dave? Where's Dave Brown? Is Dave in the room? There he is. Okay. And then I saw Dave. And I go, I'm going to have a good time. Only thing is, it's too early for a meeting with Dave. This meeting should be happening 7, 8, in fact, 2 a.m. in the morning. With Dave, I don't know, Dave, maybe your shirt's on, maybe it's off. Maybe the tie's around your head. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe you're engaging in something else with your tie. I don't know. But when I saw Dave, my immediate response was, this is going to be fun. And we started talking to each other. Dave, when was the last time we spoke? Yeah, it's been years. And yet you know that you've got a bond with someone where you just connect with them and you start talking like it was yesterday. So I'm just going to ask you to operate with this level of awareness. Would you follow you? What do your words say about you? What does your style say about you? Now look, my style is what someone called overexpressive. I'm what's known as ebullient, a little over the top, P.T. Barnum-ish. But this is my style. You've got your style. It might be a far more muted, understated style. But it's got to be a style that inspires others. And some of the most inspirational people I know are not people who are over the top. They're people who have a deep, visceral impact on the folks around them. And then, would you invest with you? Because when folks are getting engaged with you, whether it's at the recruitment level or whether it's at the client level, they're making the biggest investment of their life, either with their time or their resources or their well-being. So every day is your entire career in miniature. Would you follow you? Would you be inspired by you? Would you invest more time with you? So what I want to do now is translate my concepts into practices. Now, I want you to look at that word practice. Right? There's a reason why an engineer or a doctor or a lawyer has a practice. It's about doing the same thing over and over again, but with a heightened awareness of how you could do it better. So about 20 kilometers north of here is a hospital called Shoulders. Shoulders is the world's leading hernia repair institution. They do almost 7,000 hernia operations a year. People from all over the world come to Shoulders to have their hernia repaired. And on their website, they say we've become the best in the world because that's all we do. Let me see by a show of hands. How many people in this room only do real estate? How many of you are only in real estate? Yeah. That's all you do. But as you do what you do, are you sharpening that saw intentionally with every engagement? So the practice that I'm talking about here is not something you do Monday to Friday for the game on Saturday. It's when you do what you do, and as you're doing it, you are cognizant of how you could do it even better. So I am much better than I was last week. I'm not as good as I'm going to be next week. That's practice. Right? It's mindful, not mindless. So 10 breakthrough practices, and then we'll have time for some dialogue. So the first is head in the game. And by this stage of this reality, we should all have dived in. And the metaphor that I want to draw here, it's like when you're up at the cottage and you're on the deck, you can choose whether you jump off the deck or not. But the moment you've left the deck, you got to be all in. I know a whole lot of folks who've jumped, but they are not quite sure whether they should have done that. Have you ever been in a situation where you were ambivalent about the situation you were in? You weren't quite sure why you were even there. You were questioning yourself as you were engaging the other person. That's never going to go well. So the one thing that I will tell you is that confidence is more important than ability. I'm living proof that you can make a fantastic living through confidence alone. Because if you're confident, you're going to do things that more timid people wouldn't even try. And the more you do, the more you grow. Look, there never was such a thing as a comfort zone. Whenever I heard people talking about a comfort zone, I knew that it was a hallucination. But now, all the magic happens in the place where you are uncomfortable. And the challenge then is to embrace the chaos and the craziness of it all. Let me see by a show of hands. How many of you have done so well over the past 2 years that you really took your own success to a whole new level that you never thought you would reach? Can I see by a show? Exactly. So I just look at what has happened to my world over the last 2 years, both from a professional, from an investment standpoint, from a well-being standpoint, and there's a part of me that laments what has happened. And to a group of people of this caliber, there's a part of me that is grateful for what has happened. I'm trying to do everything I can to make a difference, but I'm also cognizant of just how extraordinary it's been. So I hope you can see I'm all in. And you want your folks to see you as all in every conversation that you show up to. Number 2, master your conversational domain. And by that I mean that there are 4 stages of evolution that people go through. So I want you to think about when you first started out. Let me tell you what the first stage is. This is the downside of being a beginner, by the way. It's called unconscious incompetence. You suck and you don't even know that you suck. Right? But you're a beginner, so people give you a free pass. Now, what's the next stage? Conscious incompetence. You now become cognizant at what you don't do well. And so now you can focus on what you do well. And then you develop what's known as unconscious competence, where you start to generate results, but you haven't codified it. You haven't formularized it. You're following other people. You are a composite of all the influences around you. And then at the highest level, you become consciously competent. You're acutely aware of what you're doing, and the only way you know you're aware of what you're doing is you can communicate it to the folks around you. So I would hope that everyone in this room, just like me, is a motivational speaker. That's someone who speaks to others in such a way that you motivate them. I hope that everyone in this room sees themselves as a mentor and a coach and a sponsor. So the reason why you come to events like this is to read, watch, listen, and talk to the champions of your craft. And every day we need to discover for ourselves. When I'm with someone, I'm always listening for, do they own this material? Do they talk like they discovered it? Have you noticed when you talk to people who are still in the early stages of their relationship with their life partner, they're totally in love with each other. They look at each other like they really are God's finest creation. And then you look at newlyweds and you see how they engage with each other like, wow, we must be the only couple fortunate enough to experience the joy, the magic of romantic love. It's like they invented it. They discovered it. And then the trick is just to sustain that for the next half century. All right? And by the way, I'm a guy who's been married now for over 30 years. And I endeavor to do this with my wife. Because the problem with my wife is she comes to my seminars. So when I'm not fully there, she just says 4 words to me. Itchy go, itchy yay, boy. And then I've got to step up. So be a professor of the game. Any Patriot fans in the audience here? Any Boston Patriot fans? So Bill Belichick is known as a professor of the game. Okay, let's focus, let's focus. I need you to understand the principle, not the team. And then share your knowledge over and over again. So I love some of the questions in the previous session around share your knowledge. Be generous. The real currency of success is reciprocity. I've never regretted being generous. I've never regretted sharing my knowledge. I have regretted being a miser with my knowledge, not sharing my knowledge, not really mastering that conversational domain. Number 3, consciously create your signature style and phrases. So say it like you invented it, own your impact, sound fresh. Have you noticed how many people you talk to who are knowledgeable, but when they talk, it's like they're talking in cliches? And there's certain folks who are what I call coldly competent. They're incredibly knowledgeable, incredibly impactful, but you don't feel the warmth coming off them. And you feel like whatever they're saying, they've taken it from a book somewhere, as opposed to really sounding like they've owned it. Now, all of us have got our own vocabulary. I'm just going to ask you to consciously apply it. Right? What are your isms? So a lot of what I've shared with you today is what I brand as Lipkin isms, truths that cannot be denied. Well, maybe they can. As I tell people, I'm often wrong, but I'm never in doubt. Right? Make every conversation memorable. Have you noticed that on any given day, we may have 10, 50, 100 conversations that day. There's going to be a handful of them, maybe even just one of them, that we remember. That's the conversation that makes the difference. So make every conversation memorable. Number 4, make peace with your inner coward. I don't know about you, but not a single day goes by when I don't ask myself, is this the day the gods of motivation forsake me? Ever had one of those days you wake up and you're scared and you don't know why? I know why. Because I know stuff has happened during the night that I don't know about, but it's going to impact me. So I actually want to feel that fear. Because we've all been with folks who've reached that place of complacency. And we know that nothing wilts faster than laurels that have been rested upon. So you want to celebrate your fear, and you want to be vulnerable enough to express your fear. Till I stand up in front of you, I think about the caliber of speakers that you're exposed to, and I go, okay, let's see if we can not only hit that bar, but raise the bar. And there's always the fear that one may not. But that's called respect. For me, fear equals respect, respect equals fear. What do we call people who don't respect the environment around them? What do we call those people? Dead. Because they don't respect their environment, then the environment gets them. So your fear will keep you humble. Your courage will make you a hero. This is about humility and confidence in equal measure. How do you bring them together? Okay, this is my favorite one, actually. And this is celebrate the struggle. You know, I go into so many meetings where someone begins the conversation with, what I struggle with is. And they say it's like it's a bad thing. Well, my message is that struggle builds muscle. Struggle builds momentum. Struggle pushes your boundaries, stretches your capacity. So I would invite you to invite in the struggle on any given day. So what are you going to struggle with on Monday? It's got to be something that you struggle with, because that's what grows you. And pain is what you experience the moment before the breakthrough. I know as I look around the room, everyone here seems to be in incredible shape. But if there is a key trend, this is the ultimate trend, it's personal wellness. There was a commentary earlier on in the day from someone who just spoke about the importance of that mental well-being. And the problem is that if you lose your mental well-being, you don't know that you've lost your mental well-being. You're just coming across as someone who's, creating angst. You're not even aware of it. So I would ask you to celebrate the struggle by making sure that above all else, you are investing in your own well-being. Because the state you are in is talking so loudly, I cannot hear the words you say. So I'm going to ask you to do something here, and I see a lot of you, because you socially distance here, just turn to a person on either side of you now, and I don't want you to say a single word. I just want you to look at that person as if to say, I'm so grateful to be sitting at your table. Don't say a word, just have your nonverbal language say that for you. Okay, great. Great. So this is what it means. By the way, this is what it means to show up in a state of well-being. This is what it means to celebrate that struggle while you're going through the struggle. Let me see by a show of hands, how many of you create posts or have a continual stream of pieces that come out either on social media or in your trade journals? Can I see by show of hands? Okay, if you're not raising your hand, this is something you must do. Now more than ever, because all it takes is one recruit to read that piece and have it resonate with him, her, or they, and that could be the reason why they join you instead of the competition. So I will tell you, people are evaluating you based on that sense of well-being that you are radiating. And you want to radiate that well-being in the middle of the struggle. So I'm a guy who makes a living writing and speaking, and I tell you, writing, for me, is terrifying. You're confronted with a blank page that you have to fill, and you have to earn other people's eyeballs and attention. And then I struggle, and I sweat, and I go, man, I can't do this. And then I go, but I have to do this because I have to fund the lifestyle to which my wife has become accustomed. Yeah, that's me. I'm a human being attached to a wallet. But that's when I remind myself that a struggle is a privilege that has been denied to many. And look, let me tell you something. If you're in this room and you're pushing 60, the chances are really good you're going to make it to 90. Really good. Make it to 60, you're going to make it to 90. But when you make it to 90, there's a 50% chance that you could suffer from some form of dementia. Fact. Yeah, that's a wake-up call. But our brains are incredibly plastic. That means they expand in direct proportion to the challenges we set it. So the best way to stay forever young is to leap into the struggle, celebrate the struggle, grow from the struggle, pull other people with you across the struggle. All right, number 6. And I hope that, great. Was that an applause that I got? Perfect. Thank you for that. Yeah. By the way, you should do more of that applause. You're pretty miserly with your applause here. Yeah, exactly. I got to tell you, one of the best things that can ever happen to me, this is why, Dave, as you can see, I'm expressing my joy here, because Dave Brown said, I'm so happy to see you. You're going to do great. And if Dave says it, then it must happen like that. So you want to applaud in advance. Don't wait for people to climb Mount Everest before you applaud them. Applaud them in advance. So the next time in a meeting, say to folks, look, all of you have been awarded an A+++, because you are the best. Now it's up to you to sustain that grade. Right? So express your joy. Celebrate success. Do you do enough celebrating? I know this is an industry that is all about celebration, but don't wait for the award ceremony. On any given day, demonstrate your delight to be in the presence of others. I got to tell you, what's our biggest fear? Just give me some fears that you may have, even at this evolved stage of your life. Just give me some fears that you may have. Rejection. Good. What else? Barbara, just give me a fear you might have. Spiders. Yeah, exactly. In fact, you should check this out. In the Globe this morning, there was a reporter from the Globe who went to Ecuador. And he was in a room, and he woke up in the middle of the night hearing strange sounds. So he puts the light on, and he was surrounded by spiders. It was the nest of the most venomous spider in South America. And there was one spider, and he won an award for his photograph. It's in the paper this morning. That was the size of 2 hands. Just thought I would share that with you. Right? So here's my point. Yes, we're afraid of rejection. Yes, we might be afraid of spiders. Let me tell you what we're really afraid of. Being boring. Not meaning anything to the folks around us. So let me tell you this. If you take one thing away from today, just demonstrate your delight to be in the presence of others so they feel like they are delightful because you're being delighted by them. Let them know. Just say it's a pleasure to be with you. Just turn to a person on either side of you and just say to them, I'm delighted to be in your presence. Right. I've never offended anybody because I told them that. And then here's the real challenge for you. Now, the people in this room have achieved a disproportionate success. You are the shining exception in this crazy environment. But the challenge is to be unconditionally enthusiastic about the process when you know you're going to lose. When you know the outcome is not going to be what you want it to be. You know, I'm a guy who gets 9 times as many no's as yeses. So when you talk about rejection, hey, that's my middle name. But when I get a yes, I make a grand. I'm just doing this for arithmetic's sake. So if I make a grand when I get 1 yes, but I've got to get 9 no's to get to the 1 yes, how much is each no worth to me? $100, exactly. You're a guy who understands the importance of tenacity. So when I get a yes, I've made a grand, but when I get a no, how much have I made? When I get a no, how much have I made? $100. Exactly. So when people say, Mike, I'm afraid the answer is no, I go, yes. Yeah, I've got 8 more to go, man. And then I get a yes. I did a presentation to a client the other day, and he said no, and I said yes, and I told him why I was doing it. You know what he says to me, this guy? He says, I wish my people thought like that. I said, hello? So look, you can win the World Series. You can win the NFL. You can win a major tournament and lose 30, 40, 50% of your regular season games. That's when you've got to be unconditionally enthusiastic, especially in front of your people, because not all times in life are created equal. People remember how you act in those crunch moments. That's when you want to be at your absolute best, even if you have to be an Academy Award-winning caliber actor. I'm going to give you 2 words, as if. Act as if you're going to win. Act as if this is the best news you've ever heard, because emotion comes from motion. Okay, number 7. Listen with extreme empathy. Empathy means you can truly put yourself into the shoes of the person to whom you are speaking. Empathy means you feel things vicariously. That means you feel things as they feel things. Now, as you heard from the introduction, Simon shared with you, I'm aligned with a large research company called Environics. And we study the evolution of social values and trends. Let me ask you this. What percentage of Canadians do you think brand themselves as very empathetic? Because we ask questions. Do you think you're very, somewhat, don't know, not really empathetic? How many do you think see themselves as very empathetic? What percentage would you say? So I got 70, I got 20. The answer is 1 out of 4. Why are people reticent to be empathetic? What's the price of being empathetic? Weakness. Well, weakness, yeah, you might be seen to be weak. Exactly. What else is the price to be paid? You got to feel the other person's pain. You got to be able to get through it. So there's a paradox here. You got to feel the pain but not let it impact you. But if people feel that you feel what they feel, they're going to want to hang with you. They're going to want to communicate with you. The best thing that a client can ever say to me is the following. I don't know why I'm sharing this with you. I haven't told anybody else this. Or, wow, you just seem to get me. And I'll tell you this, in everyone's life, there are only 2 kinds of people, those who get us and those who do not get us. And have you noticed, if you believe someone doesn't get you, you don't get them, they don't get you, neither of you get gotten, and you don't get the deal. So listen to others so you reflect their best self. Look, if I share nothing else with you, take this away. When you listen to others, they've got to feel like they are fascinating. They've got to feel like they're worthy of all that you have to give. So you even want to use phrases like, wow, that's fascinating. Tell me more. That's interesting. That's incredible. Congratulations. People desperately want praise and appreciation. How many of you in this room, by the way, are getting way too much kudos? Yeah, and if you're not getting it, that supply gets scarcer as you go down the hierarchy. So reflect other people's best self, especially when you're virtual. Because people are looking at you, and they by themselves. And have you noticed, people who spend too much time by themselves become strange. So they want that reinforcement coming through the screen. And when I look at the people on a Zoom call, not necessarily when I'm speaking, but they don't look like they want to be there. And the amazing thing to me is how many people are in front of a webcam and are totally oblivious to the fact they're in front of a webcam, doing all kinds of things. And I go, are you kidding me? So listen for mindset, mood, and meaning, and then look at this phrase. Build rapport with their words. So we heard the importance of matching and mirroring in the previous session. But I now want you to listen for other people's words. Because we never ever say to someone, I like you because we've got big differences. No, we say, I like you because we speak each other's language. So that's why I've endeavored to use some of your words during the course of this program. Okay, number 8. There are those moments where you just need to step up and take control. I call those the threshold moments. Someone is waiting for somebody to take action, to say what needs to be said, do what needs to be done, to swing for the fences. And again, I'm highly cognizant of the fact that you're a group of folks whose success is a direct function of your willingness to do what needs to be done in those moments. And as I tell people, procrastinate later, do it now. Right? Don't kick that can down the road. Have that difficult conversation. And oftentimes, because I'm paid to be the provocateur, I'm the one who says, excuse me, the emperor has no clothes. And then the room goes quiet because they go, ooh, now it's going to get interesting. But you want to be able to create that environment where your people feel like they can engage in what I brand as courageous authenticity, speak truth to power, and take those actions that need to be taken. The best salespeople, by the way, are people who in the moment just take control. And hey, I see Deborah Baines here, so I got to share the story. So in 2002, July 2002 to be exact, I was on my way to Canada, and I'd come to Canada specifically together with my wife to find a house. Now, luckily, over the years, I'd created a fair amount of wealth, and I was looking for a house in Forest Hill, or in a nice area. So Deborah is referred to me and drives me around. At the time, I remember in a brown Honda CR-V. And Deborah, I still remember those suede leather pants that you had. If you want to know the truth, that's why I bought the house from you. Just joking. But anyway, so Deborah takes us around, and then we see a house, Forest Hill and Hillholm Road. And we go, this is it. We set a good price. It was like imagine, 1.5 million for a house on Forest Hill, just one block north of Upper Canada College. And so Deborah, through her negotiating expertise, gets it down to 1.2. And the way Deborah handles the whole sale is she says, I want you in the car with me. No, you're not going to sit in your apartment and wait for me to call you. No, you're going to be in the car with me. So she goes into the house, I'm in the car. She comes out the house, tells me what's going on, goes back into the house, and then I'm prevaricating because all of a sudden I realize, oh my God, I'm about to make a massive investment. And then she comes out at the 1.2 level and she says, this is it, sign here. There was no challenging that statement. Like that was it. She seized that moment. And I felt that that was the right moment to act, even though I had all the reservations one has when one is plunging oneself into that kind of commitment. So you know that your best folks understand what moment is a threshold moment and how to act in that regard. But that's where your conviction needs to shine through. And your conviction, not just in terms of the deal, but the well-being of the other person. So let's get to the second last potentiator practice. And by the way, I give you 10 because it's biblical. Right? There's something about the number 10. I don't want you to have to think about, oh my God, he's giving me 10. Which one do I use? Just see them as a toolbox. All right, and we'll be distributing these slides to you. There's a summary slide in a moment. But just see each one of these as a tool to be applied in an appropriate moment. So the Potentiator is the title of my new book that's coming out in 4 weeks' time. And it simply means enabling others to achieve outcomes they would not have been able to achieve without you. Now, let me take this down even further. A potentiator is someone who's on your team, in the meeting, part of your network, and you know that if they're involved in a project or a program, it's going to go extremely well. You know that if they're part of an interaction, you're going to bring your A game. Have you noticed there's certain people that just seeing them, you go, I'm going to kick my game up a couple notches today. A, because that's what they expect me to do. B, that's what they inspire me to do. So here's a core primal question to all of you. Do your people work with you because they have to or because they want to? Right. When your number appears on other people's screen, do they take it because they know that what will ensue will be an uplifting experience? Or do they see your number and hit, can I call you later? So, become their MVR, their most valuable resource. You know, the one thing we both have in common is we are operating in a highly competitive environment. But I know that if I am branded as someone's most valuable resource, their go-to person, I'm going to get the call. I'm also going to get the last call. I'm also going to get an audience and a conversation that I otherwise would not have got. And by the way, the more confidence, the more trust you establish with folks, the more you have to focus on becoming their most valuable resource. Because otherwise, you go from hero to zero in a heartbeat. That's all it takes. One wrong move. That's just the way life is. I'll share with you, I do a lot of work with a large mutual fund company. And in May of last year, they said there's only one individual we can go to who can replicate the live experience with a virtual experience. So they came to me, and that was at the time, remember May of last year, where we were struggling how to do all of this, and the networks were being overwhelmed. And so I'm in front of this crowd, and it's all going well, and then my internet just shuts down. And the static just made it even worse. And I got to tell you, I haven't got a call for the last 15 months from this group, and they used to hire me every month. It's just the way it is. It ain't unfair, it's just the way it is, because I've also been at the receiving end of a lot of unearned flukes. So I didn't know Arletta was going to reference me to this great group. I didn't know I was going to show up here today. That's a gift. So remember this, for every setback that you're aware of, just know there are multiple miracles, multiple fantastic outcomes that were presented to you. Honor them, cherish them, relish them, and invite even more into your life by continually aiming to be the MVR. Okay, so here's the final breakthrough practice. Go for the wow every time. And that is, in every meeting, you want to anticipate sensational success. So one of the reasons I always like to come early for a session is I want to watch the stage. I want to watch the audience. I want to see it going the way I want it to go. The other day, someone wished me good luck. I said, I don't need good luck. It's already gone well. I'm in lag time. I've seen this going the way I want it to go. Believe in magic and miracles. Now, sometimes when I use the word magic, people think it's a bit flaky. But I go, what's the one company that is the most valuable brand in the world that uses magic as its core adjective? What company is that? Disney. And which other company? Apple. I just bought a mouse from Apple. Guess what? It's not a mouse, it's a magic mouse. Comes on the box, magic mouse. I like that because my box says Magic Mike. Just joking. And then I bought a keyboard. It's an ordinary keyboard, but through Apple, it's a magic keyboard. So would people apply the word magic to you? And I know that you use that phrase. When people say to me, that's magic, I know that is the highest praise. It's an indefinable charm or quality, or as they say in French, je ne sais quoi. All right? And then redefine expectations every time. So for those who haven't heard me before, I hope that today I have raised your expectations for the next time. For those who've heard me today, I hope that you've learned something new and I've redefined your expectations of who I am. And I just want to leave you with, this summary slide of these 10 points. We will distribute these slides to you. But I want you to remember this as my last thought. In every conversation, you train people how to expect you to be in the next conversation. In every conversation, you train people how to expect you to be in the next conversation. So in every conversation, train people to expect you to be even more impactful, more magic in the next conversation. My name is Mike Lipkin. I am your potentiator. Now, please tell other people. Thank you very much. Thank you.